Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, if you're coming back for another video, thank you so much. Smash that like button, subscribe button, means a lot. We're going still. Race prep all the way. The next race from time of recording this is about 3 weeks out. Actually, it's like 3.5 weeks. So by the time you see this video, it's probably 2.5 weeks out. Working on the 4-seat turbo car. This car last raced at King of the Hammers. Had some issues at King of the Hammers. First was with fueling. We were having a fueling issue. Second, what ultimately took this car out of the race with Matt and Nathan in the car was the radiator mounts broke on the car. Blew the cap off. Day done. No coolant in the car. Can't keep going. Gonna spin the camera around, give you guys an update on the 2-seat car. So this car raced at NorCal a couple weeks ago with Ultra 4. Just right now working on trying to figure out what's going on with the transmission. I know in a previous video, I showed you guys pulling it, tearing it apart, opening it. Still don't know from my side of things why I don't have reverse in the transmission. Everything else in the transmission is great. No reverse. So digging into that, talking with a few people, trying to find out what's going on inside that thing that would cause no reverse. So without further ado, let's work on this 4-seater. So in the last video, you saw me tear the fuel pump out, put an external fuel pump on, and temporarily wire it to make the 4-seat turbo car run. Our original plan was to run an external fuel pump setup, so it draws out of the fuel cell, pushes it to the fuel rail injectors, and sends all the go juice to the motor and makes us go. Through trial and error and research and talking to a ton of different people, I want to give a shout out to Chris at Benchmark Performance, Mark at Pyrotech, Brian from TNT Racing. Those guys were huge in helping me try to figure out the best way to do it. And I also got to give a shout out to Jeremy with Driven Off-Road as well for being a great resource. So certain models of Polaris vehicles, doesn't have to be a RZR, doesn't even have to be a race car. Could be your bone stock Expedition or RZR, whatever it may be. There's a thing called an EVAP model, which means it meets emission standards, legal in California, has some different components on the vehicle. Well, this 4-seat turbo car is an EVAP model. And what that means is it has some components on it that communicate together that require that OEM fuel pump. And I'll show you those components here in just a second. All right, guys, so I don't know how well you can see it, but right here is a little gray box. That is the fuel controller. And what that does is that actually communicates with this sensor. Better angle of that for you. Communicates with that sensor right there for fuel pressure on the rail. And so between that fuel controller and that sensor on the rail, paired with the communication to the actual ECU of the vehicle, the OEM fuel pump is a modulating pump. It's a variable speed pump, which means all of the communication between those three components is telling the fuel pump how much fuel to deliver, how much pressure it wants to see at that sensor. Well, with the external fuel pump is a one-speed constant pressure controlled by a regulator. Well, it's not an adjustable regulator. There's no way to send a control wire to the regulator to allow it to modulate pressure when, that ECU and the boost sensor is detecting boost pressure and asking for more fuel. So that eliminates our ability to run an external fuel pump and have that auxiliary system. So what's going to happen now, and with all those conversations I've had with some different people, is we're going to convert back to an OEM fuel pump setup, but we're going to change some things up, such as fuel line size to allow head pressure to not be as high. Because what was happening at King of the Hammers is, because the fuel cell that's in the car is so deep and that pump's all the way at the bottom of the pump, it's building what's called head pressure. So instead of it feeding from your shallow height of an OEM fuel cell or an aftermarket fuel cell like we previously had in the car, where it's only as deep as the fuel pump is tall, we were running an extended fuel pump setup. And with that pump all the way at the bottom, it has to make up that pressure differential from here to here instead of here to here. Hopefully that makes sense. My background prior to working on UTVs and racing these things, I spent a lot of time working with different pumps. So the head pressure differential and all that is natural to me, and it makes perfect sense. So what I'm going to do now is pull off this temporary external pump and start prepping it to put an OEM type setup back in and make some changes. Guys, so got the OEM fuel pump back in, waiting on some new fuel line to redo that side of it, and that should be here next week. So with that, this week, that's my video for you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And again, if you haven't yet, smash that subscribe button, give me a follow, and we'll see you in the next one.